Welcome to the Bonita Business Podcast, where we bring you behind-the-scenes insights and unexpected ideas, ones that are creating business and career success right here in my chosen hometown of Bonita Springs, Florida. I'm your host, Bonita business coach Darcy Eikenberg. I'm the author of Bring Your Superpowers to Work and the founder of the leadership development firm RedCapeRevolution.com. I'm so glad you're here with me today. I don't know about you, but I think the restaurant business seems like a tough business, even in the best of circumstances. So imagine this situation. You're the chef and manager of a little waterfront restaurant in beautiful Southwest Florida, but you're located deep inside one of the largest gated communities in our area, but you're not associated with the community or its club. So you've got to figure out how to make it on your own, even when most of the town doesn't know you exist. Well, that's the situation I talked about with Cory Bass, the executive chef and general manager at Backwater Jack's. Now, Backwater Jack's is located inside the gated community of Bonita Bay, but it isn't part of either the Bonita Bay Club or the Bonita Bay Community Association. There's a whole history as to how that happened back during the last recession. Just ask one of our longtime residents to explain it. But what I'm really interested in today are the business challenges he's facing right now. So in this interview, Cory and I talk about how he and his team have been turning the business around, including how they're building a specific, consistent personality for the place, a technique we often forget in our businesses when we think we have to be all things to all people. Part of his method for doing that is also a regular email marketing campaign. Yes, email marketing. And it's becoming a conversation with his customers, not an advertisement or ending up in the spam folder. People are actually looking for it. He's doing a lot of things you may be able to apply right now in your business today. Now, today's show is brought to you by our friends at Audible. Audible's offering our listeners a free audiobook when you sign up for a 30-day trial membership. I love audiobooks, and I'll have a couple that I'll recommend over on the show notes page if you're looking for a place to get started with audiobooks. But just go to audibletrial.com/Coach Darcy, and you get started right away. Now, enjoy this interview with Cory Bass, executive chef and general manager of Backwater Jack's. Well, so in addition to being the executive chef, you also wear the hat of the general manager.
That's right.
So the business side of a restaurant is probably just as challenging, if not more, than getting the food right. So tell me about what that looks like. What's an average day for you?
Well, let's not forget, you wouldn't have one without the other. The food's got to be good first. But an average day for me is I walk in the building around 9 o'clock and I walk through the walk-ins, see what we have left over from the day before, discard things that have passed their day of freshness. And then from that stage, I'll start to develop, some ideas of what I want to do with the specials for the evening. Now, we run several specials a night, 3, 4, sometimes 5 specials in the evening, to augment our regular menu. Now, once I have an idea, in my head of something I want to do, I will go to my office, write it out, kind of draw a plate diagram of where I want it to be on the plate and everything. And then I will type up an email that I send out every single day, which I'm sure we'll get to in a few. But and then once the email is sent out, I'll go back in the kitchen and any of the fresh fish that came in that day, I'll be cutting fish, and preparing the sauces, things of that nature. And then once I get through that point, that's when it's time to go back in the office, type up the menu, print the menu, and take them to our servers in the front of the house to stuff in the menu boards. Once that's done, then it's drafting floor plans, figuring out who's working what station, who's coming in for the evening, who called off for the evening, which in the restaurant business, it seems like it's a routine. And then about that time, it's time for lineup. We line everybody up. We make the specials. We let them try the specials because we want them to know what they're selling. And then it's game on from that point. And I in the summer months, I cook every single night on the line. I'm a physical part of the line. In season, I work, the pass is what it's called. I'm not sure if you've ever heard that term before, but it's the guy that, they hand me the food. I look at it, wipe the edges, and then send it out of the kitchen. And then once we get through the peak part of the evening, even in season, I'll come out to the dining room and talk to some people and do the PR work that I think is very important. People have come to associate me with Backwater Jacks, which is important. It has to have a face. It has to have an identity. And I'm proud to say that this place is starting to take on, my identity.
So let's talk about that, because we were chatting a little bit before that, this particular place has a couple challenges. It's located inside a big gated community, but it's kind of hidden back. So yes, while you have some neighbors and an audience, you've also been working to expand the reach.
That's correct.
More so.
We've run a couple of marketing plans, and one of those was to go outside of the gates, especially in the summer months when obviously 60 to 80% of our community leaves for their northern homes. We need to reach outside of the gates to maintain viability as a business. So we've sent out some, coupons and things of that nature, and we've gotten people in this place. And we actually sell a membership here. It's called Jack's Packs. And during season, you're not really allowed back into Bonita Bay. You couldn't even get to this restaurant unless you came by boat. But if you join Jack's Packs, that gives you the ability to come back here anytime you please. And that's been hugely beneficial for us. It has really gotten our name out into the community. And I've done a couple of other pieces. I did a piece in Spotlight, that kind of focused on what we were doing here in the restaurant. And a lot of people came in from that article themselves. So I think the more we get our name out there and we provide a good product when these people do visit us, that, it'll almost advertise itself after a while.
So using a membership model for some sustainability for the business is kind of something, I haven't seen in a lot of restaurants. How did that idea come about?
Well, how many clubs are in this area? It's kind of modeled like that. I would say it's a hybrid between that and a frequent diners card or a frequent flyers card or something of that nature. So if you're here enough, and you get, with the Jack's Pack membership, you get 10% off all food and beverage, 10% off, any purchases in the marine shop, and 2% off marine fuel, which doesn't take you long to get your money back out of a $250 membership. So that's a bonus. And it also drives traffic. People don't mind coming in, and spending a little bit, because they're getting that back.
One of the things that, I found a lot working with clients is when we can have a value that's over and above that really touches something like the sense of belonging, the sense of being part of something special, and that can really resonate. And it sounds like that's really part of what you're trying to do with both the membership model and also, some of the changes that you're making here at the place.
Along those lines, some of those changes, and it really, and this is going to sound super corny, but it was a vibe, a feeling I wanted to evoke when you came into the restaurant. And it kind of already had it, with the wood on the walls and everything. It had that, nautical motif. But I wanted to, I don't know if you've ever been to Cabbage Key.
No.
But there's a bar on Cabbage Key, and that's the place that Jimmy Buffett wrote the song Cheeseburger in Paradise about. And I really wanted to have that vibe, that, that laid back, fun place to be, where you can come with your friends after a day on the boat and you don't have to worry about showering and putting on a collared shirt. You can come in your bikini top and your swim trunks and still get a good meal, and a nice meal presented nicely. I don't want to say it's fine dining because I don't believe it is fine dining, but it's not far off in an atmosphere where you can come in flip-flops and bikini tops.
So creating that atmosphere and also going through some of the changes, the the place has gone through. And tell me a little bit about some of those decisions that, you had to make to get it closer to that vision, because, there was a time when there was a question mark of whether this place would stay open.
Yeah,
right. Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, tell me about that.
The biggest thing was consistency, and that's what it was lacking for so very long. They changed the identity of the place so often that nobody knew what it was. They changed the hours of operation so many times that nobody knew when they were open. And it just needed some consistency. That was the first step. That was the first big step. Keep doing it well and just keep it that way consistently. That was step one. Step two is, like I said before, hiring the right people, having a bartender that can carry on a conversation with anybody about anything. Those things are important, but also knowing when to step back because he's busy and he has to work. It's those kind of things. And then me coming out and introducing myself and, making everyone feel welcome. We're in hospitality. That's the piece that we're talking about. It's hospitality.
One of the things you mentioned before, around putting an identity, personification of a place and connecting yourself to it, as opposed to talking about the restaurant in the third person. You mentioned your email.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit more about why email marketing and how that's worked for you and some of the choices that you've made to do that regularly. Because it sounds like it takes time. Every day you're open.
It does. It takes me about 45 minutes to an hour every day to type the email up and send it out. I think that works in twofold. One, because our demographic, our clientele are older, established folks, and they grew up in the email era. It's not like it's old news to them. They're not on Instagram. You know what I mean? So that being said, it's easier for them to kind of to receive that sort of marketing. Secondly, is I really do try to personalize the emails. I put a lot of myself, my sense of humor. It's not so vanilla. There's a lot of chocolate in there. And I don't mind that. As a matter of fact, I don't think I can write a form business letter very well because I tend to write exactly as I speak, which is a bad habit in a lot of ways. And it's a great habit in some others. Well,
I think it's a way that people can stand out, because I do believe people do want to connect with a person.
Right.
And I think a lot of people have been taught to, write neutrally, but you take a point of view, you engage, right, and you share, here's what I'm thinking about, or here's what I'm struggling with, or man, I can relate to this,
exactly,
as well as here's the fish of the day.
Exactly. And I try to imbue that to everybody that comes in. And there's great stories that I have with some of these people when they do come in from the emails. It's gotten kind of funny. There's been a couple of days where things have transpired and I just did not have a chance to get to writing that email. And I've had several people come in going, what's going on? I didn't get the email.
Yeah. So it becomes part of their day.
Exactly. They're waiting for it to come out at this point, which is, I find humorous, because it ended up just being like a way for me to market the specials to some of the people that were coming in, and then it evolved into what it has today, where people are actually looking forward to it, reading it to each other, which I think is really funny, because I don't think I'm that entertaining.
Hey, it's Coach Darcy here, and just a quick reminder that after the show, come on over to BonitaBusinessPodcast.com. There you'll find show notes with more resources, photos, and other tools related to the episode you're listening to right now. You can also sign up to get regular email updates from me as new podcasts come out. You won't want to miss what's ahead, so be sure to visit Bonita Business Podcast today. Now, let's go back to my interview. So how did you get here?
How did I get here? Long story. I moved to, I'll try to give you the cliff notes.
We'll do the censored version, yeah.
But, I moved down here in the, early to mid 90s. When I first moved here, I was the executive chef at the Collier Inn on Usepa, which is a little island that's directly across from Cabbage Key. Hence, I spent quite a bit of time at Cabbage Key. And, I worked out there for a couple of years, and then I moved into the mainland, and I worked at Pazzo's for Skip on Fifth Avenue. And then from there, I went to the Edgewater Beach Hotel, back when Huizenga still owned the registry and, the Edgewater Beach. And then he sold those out to Blackstone. And from that point, I moved to, Wildcat Run, and I worked as the, food and beverage director at Wildcat Run for about 7 years. And then, we wanted to change of pace. We were like, okay, we've done the Florida thing. Let's try something different. So we moved up to North Carolina, where I worked as the club manager at Wilson Golf and Country Club, Wilson, North Carolina. There's not a lot in Wilson, North Carolina. There's like soybean tobacco and like horses, and it's pretty much the only thing that's there. And I enjoyed it for a time, but I came to realize how much I missed, I guess you could say, the staycation of Southwest Florida. So we ended up coming back, and I had a friend of a friend who had reached out to me and let me know that the restaurant was in dire straits, and I really needed some help. And I love a challenge. I really do. So I ended up coming on board. The first year was really tough. It was an uphill battle the whole way.
What was the hardest thing about that first year?
When they walked in, they were already assuming it was going to be horrible.
They meaning
the customers, the patrons that coming into the place. The assumption was it's going to be bad when they walked in the door. That's so hard to shed, especially if somebody comes in thinking it's going to be
the
bad.
vibe was this place is going down.
Yeah, exactly. And so I had to fight tooth and nail to change that perspective, that point of view. And I did. And I spent an enormous amount, and I was just the chef at this point. We had a manager out front. But I still spent an enormous amount of time, talking to customers and engaging. Well, what was wrong, before? What did you not find that you were looking for out of this place? And of course, you're going to get 9,000 different answers, and you're not going to make everybody happy all the time. But I think I got a good consensus of what the issue was. And like I said before, I think the biggest thing was consistency. Nobody ever knew what they were going to get when they came in. And so that's what I've tried to do. Now there were some scenarios where I couldn't, provide what they were looking for. One of the examples was, for the longest time, this place did corn and crab chowder. I love corn and crab chowder. One of my favorites. Absolutely. But it's a very difficult product to keep consistent all the time, especially because these people like their soup like 180 degrees, like it's like lava. And so you can't keep a cream-based soup that hot for any extended period of time, or you're just throwing it away. And when you're putting 4 to 5 pounds of crab meat in a soup and then you're throwing it away at the end of the night, that becomes,
so it's the economic decisions.
Yeah, that becomes very, it's not very cost effective.
Right.
So I ended up changing the soup. Now I got a lot of backlash from that, but eventually people grew to understand through me coming out and being like, look, I understand you're upset, but here's the reason why.
Yeah, because you've written about food waste and about, about this was great yesterday and we've got a little more today, which a lot of times I think that, I'm no restaurant expert, but that someone wouldn't be as honest about or what's happening behind the scenes.
I would rather be honest though. Mm-hmm. I would rather somebody know, hey, look, I bought enough to get through this weekend. This is the last day. If I run out, I run out. It's first come, first serve. But, whatever we don't serve, well, the staff is going to have a great meal or, something to that effect. I would always rather feed somebody than throw anything away though. Mm-hmm. I'll send home a half a roast with a dishwasher if I don't think it's going to make it. That's just how I am. Mm-hmm. But I want to keep things fresh. Yeah. That's the most important thing. Fresh.
We're right here. We're having this conversation overlooking the beautiful bay and the whole area feels like fresh and clean. And so that, feels like kind of the vibe you're trying to create. But So tell me, we were talking before as I came in, obviously you've done some building and expanding and enhancement, recently. So tell me a little bit about managing a project like that, because you described a day that was a lot of chefing, but then this is, it's not a little bit of construction that you've done here. You called it a porch, but it's
well, I mean, that's what it is. But you're right. It's evolved to way more than just a deck. It was, as I said before, the permitting process itself took 12 months. And then it's taken another almost 4 months to build the deck. And it's a deck. It's not like it's, a strip mall, which I've seen go faster, I think, actually. But the whole reason for building the deck, the goal, the end result we wanted was for people to be coming off the boats, to hear the music, to smell the food, to see the energy of the place, because a lot of times that's hidden. It's masked. You'll come off the boats and you won't even realize that there's a restaurant in here. And you definitely wouldn't realize that you're allowed to go in there if you're not a member. So I've actually put some signage down here and whatnot to really let people know, hey, we're open. Come on in. And the hook and cook it thing, I love that. It's my favorite thing in the world to do.
So tell me what that means.
All right. That means they go out, they go fishing, they catch fish, they bring it to me, I make it for them. Which is one of my favorite. It doesn't get any fresher than right off the boat. We went out a couple of weeks back. I went out, maybe 125 miles offshore, with one of our investors here and, caught a couple of mahi. And I'm telling you, that's the best eating. When it comes right off the boat, it's a different experience altogether. It's so nice. And speaking of which, this was 2 weeks ago now. We were in bad water till about the 50-mile mark. And then finally it started to clear up. So it is getting better. The more of this rain we get and wind we get from these storms, the better off we're going to be.
That's the beauty of hurricane season is that we get a lot of rain and wind to
we need it right
blow
now,
out some of the weather. We absolutely do. So you were talking about the construction and it took a period of time. That's okay. It took a period. I liked hook it and cook it. If someone was going to make some kind of expansion to their business today in Bonita Springs, if you could rewind the clock, was there anything you would do differently or expectations you set differently knowing what you know now?
I would be a lot more firm on timelines, from the GC, the general contractor. I asked for a timeline quite a few times and it's like, we'll probably be done and yada. And then it doesn't happen. But nothing's in paper. So there's hardly any accountability. If I had to really make a decision on what I would do differently, I would hard line, a timeline from them and then hold them accountable for it. Because it has lasted a lot longer than it should have for a decade, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. And these things, I think a lot of business people find it hard to predict. And especially if you're doing some work in the summertime or you're planning it in the fall or the winter that you want to be able to do it in the summertime to know that you have a limited window, especially for when the construction you have would get in the way of customers if you did it. That's why
in the wintertime.
That's why I'm super glad we're only open 3 days a week because they have those other days, to get work accomplished, at least things that would impede people from coming into the building. And that's what we've tried to do. We've tried to arrange it so that they're working, at least some of the big work, when people aren't coming in the restaurant.
So we're doing this interview in September. At what point then do you go to a more regular hours?
October 23rd. Yeah. And, we will run all the way through, May. Because that seems to be our peak season, even though I think from October through December could be referred to as a mini season, because not everybody's back, but a large majority are. And then they all go away like Christmas time, it seems like. And then January 1 is when, it's full tilt boogie all the way through May.
Yeah, and I think we can never forget about the fact that there are an increasing number of full-time people who live in the area who've chosen to make Bonita Springs their home. And how do we have places open and activities to serve them? And
I think you're going to see more and more of that moving forward. I think more and more people are deciding to make this their permanent residence. I've seen it just in our little community here, and I'm sure it's happening much, more broadly out on on 41.
So you left Southwest Florida and then came back. And so tell me what's changed in your observation between the time when you worked in this area before and then now?
Honestly, not a lot. I mean, cause it was about 6 years ago we left. And we came back 6 years later and not that much has changed. Honestly, it's kind of the same place. That's why I'm so happy. honestly, because we had coconut there before. Now, when we first moved here in the early 90s, that was a stark difference. There was no coconut. There was no Gulf Coast. There was none of those places were there. I think the only thing you really had on 41 was RJ Gators and the pewter mug,
Right.
down in Naples. So when you had a restaurant like this at that point in time, yeah, you were probably doing 450 to 500 covers a night because what were your choices? Now that there's so much competition, I mean, you've got Outback across the road, you've got Bonefish, you've got Carrabba's. I mean, it's innumerable how many restaurants.
Plus the delivery services are coming in here now too.
In a 5-mile radius. So you've really got to, you've got to be on your game. You've got to be doing something really right to have people want to come to your place. And I think creating this, how do I say this the right way without, I'm trying to be very political right now. I want to be, the anti-club. I don't want to be Bonita Bay Club or anything like it. I want to be the antithesis of that. I want to be exactly opposite. I don't want to compete with them. I have no desire to compete with somebody in our community. They're part of us. I look at it like we're just, we're an extension of the same family. We're like second cousins removed or something. And I want to be different. I want to be completely different. And that's what we're trying to do here. And I think that's why we're getting some of these people coming in, because they don't necessarily want to have to put on the collared shirt and the jacket to go eat. They want to come in relaxed. And
the recognition that your audience can want different things at different times. There's times when you want to put on the collared shirt. And there's times when you want to come in your flip-flops.
And when they want to put on the collared shirt, you don't have to come here. You can go to the club. I mean, there's other options. I'm not saying don't go anywhere else. I'm just saying, hey, check us out. We're a little bit different.
When you look at what's happening in the community, because, you're a business person too. I heard food first, but still it's a business. And what, if you had a magic wand, what would be one thing that you would change in our area right now?
Outside of Red Tide and what's going on with Lake O, I would say inflationary hikes on all goods right now. I've just gone through the roof. It's become so expensive to buy products that you either run an exceptionally high cost of goods where you're not making any money, you're losing money, or you pass it along to the customer who's just as not happy about having to pay, I say expensive because I feel like it's expensive, but that's what I have to charge to run my margins. And that really bites. And it's, I don't know why inflation has gone up so fast the way it has, but it really has, and it's affecting the restaurant business. And I don't think it's going to just affect us. I think it's going to affect a lot of the smaller restaurants in the area. Maybe not the Carrabba's or the Outbacks or these huge, they've got pretty big umbrellas, and we don't possess that. So it's a lot harder for us as individuals, and we have to be a lot more creative about how we procure, our commodities.
What's the one product that you've seen have the biggest increase that the average restaurant goer wouldn't realize?
The crazy thing right now, lemons and oranges. They're under a act of God right now, from the people that we buy them from. And, it's insanely expensive. I mean, to get a lemon with your iced tea it's like 50 cents worth of lemon.
And as much lemon as we use, citrus that we use here in the citrus area.
Exactly.
Right?
And it's outrageous. And it's not just that, Bo. It's like asparagus. It's, fresh berries. It's, seafood now, now with everything that's going on out here, through the roof. So as those prices go up, I have to, like I said, you either eat them and you lose money, and try to weather the storm, which I don't know if the storm is ever going to end, or you pass along to the customer. So you end up having that conversation a lot with people. Well, how come the club can charge X for this? Well, something that a lot of people don't know about club businesses is they all lose money in food and beverage. That's what they do. Food and beverage in a club is not there to make money. It's an amenity. They're supported by dues.
Different business models.
Yes.
Totally. Yeah. So interesting. What's the biggest reason coming up this fall and the season why someone should come and check you out?
Well, the entertainment's great. I'm really picky about the entertainers I bring in here, really shooting for that whole Jimmy Buffett vibe. The food is not, you're not going to find any fresher fish, I think, anywhere in Florida than you're going to find right here at Backwater Jack's. You've got a great view of, some beautiful boats in the bay, our little inlet here. And now we've got open dining, like open air dining. We had a porch that was screened in, but I just don't think it's the same as sitting there and overlooking the water and hearing the birds chirp and watching the sun go down over the bay.
It's a nice vibe.
It is. It is. I enjoy it.
Yeah, great.
If I didn't enjoy it, let me put it this way. If I didn't enjoy what I did to a degree, I don't think I'd be doing it. Because it's tough work. It's brutal. It's a lot of hours.
Definitely. Well, Cory Bass of Backwater Jack's, the executive chef and general manager. Thanks.
And dishwasher and bouncer and, whatever.
and permit chaser and construction manager. Thank you so much for being on the Bonita Business Podcast.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
Thanks. Fun guy, huh? So how could some of his ideas work for you? For example, are you clear on the personality you want your company to have? Or are you blending in with everybody else? Sure, most of our businesses can't be flip-flops and cutoffs, but what Cory's getting at is something that I also see as a business trend, that our ideal customers want to feel more connected to us, getting more personal, getting more human. Even if we're just telling a personal story in an email or in our ads or when they walk into our place of business. Well, that's just a simple strategy. It's working for him and it can work more for you too. Check it out for yourself. You can find a link at bonitabusinesspodcast.com to sign up for Backwater Jack's emails and just check it out and sample it. And while you're there, be sure to subscribe to our podcast updates, and you'll be among the first to know about every new episode. You also can follow our special link for Audible, who is sponsoring our show today. You'll go to audibletrial.com/Coach Darcy, and you will get a free audiobook when you sign up for a 30-day trial membership. Audiobooks rock. I listen to so many great books that way, and I'll have a couple suggestions out there for you. I'm Bonita Business Coach Darcy Eikenberg, and thanks so much for being here today. Remember, Bonita may mean beautiful, but it also means business. Bye for now.